Well, that's what's left of the operating stuff on the mobile dimension sawmill. The bolts, I've got to go through and inventory those and take note of what there is and get replacements for all those, the nuts and the bolts and the washers and the other hardware. This is one of the bearing inserts for the bearings. This is for the main shaft, for the main big saw motor or big saw shaft, blade shaft. I've got new bearings for that. This is insert for the top of the edger blade shaft. I've got a new bearing coming for that. So this is a variable speed V-belt thing, and that's all apart. That has to be cleaned up. That shaft is over there on the table. I need to polish it up and get all that stuff cleaned up. So that's what's left of her. There's a pile of bearings over there. These bearings here are kind of the #1 bearing. That's the most, and last time I counted there was 18 of them or something like that there. I've got to count again because I ordered 20 of them, and hopefully 20 of them is enough. But that's the main bearing. They've got a groove in them for these snap rings on there, and they use those all through it even without the snap rings. These are even for the rollers. They're 5/8 shaft, and I forget what the outside diameter is, 1 3/8 inches I believe. Anyway, those are used for the rollers. They're used for through everything, the pulleys and stuff like that. The only difference is this bearing here, this was used on the support for the blades. It goes down and keeps the whole mill from bouncing up and down too bad when you're sawing there. And I ordered one of those, and then I found that there was another one on the other leg, and so I ordered another one of those. So those are coming. Now this is the only bearing that I worry about. This one actually rolls pretty good, but this is a 5/8 shaft. I think it says it's a 5202, but I can't find this bearing this wide. That's almost 1.5 inches wide, 1 1/8 wide, and this is the closest I could get to it here, and it's only about half that wide. So I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I can use one of these and one of these in there. Yeah, that ain't quite going to work either. I don't know what I'm going to do with these, because these bearings, the sleeve that these stick into, only the bearing sticks out about 1/3 of the way of that. So I've got to figure out what to do about that bearing. I'm still looking for it. Maybe I can find it, but I got 4 of these and they're the wrong ones. So anyway, that's what's left of it. Actually, that's not quite what's left of it. Oh, here's all the parts and pieces in here in the sandblaster. So I've got a bunch of them in here. That one's just been sitting in there. I haven't worked on it yet, but that's that sleeve that fits, spacer that fits on the main shaft by the big blade. And then we've got these other spacers in here. Again, I haven't done anything to those. There's a finger there that's support for the fuel tank. And another piece. Like I said, I don't know what all these pieces, I'm going to have a hell of a time getting all these back together, but figuring out what they are. This is one of the bearing housings here. Got it all cleaned up pretty nice. And I've got a bunch of pieces cleaned up. Like I said, I was coming out here, I was sandblasting them yesterday, and then I come out here at midnight last night, and the fire was just down to some coals, so I had to get the fire going again. So while I was waiting for the fire to get going, I worked on it some more and did a few more pieces. So anyway, now I gotta go work outside. Between plowing snow, splitting wood, and doing a little bit of landscaping work out here, I've been sandblasting these parts for this mobile dimension mill. I've just about got them cleaned up. I got them cleaned up pretty good. Some of them are okay the way they are. Some of them are going to need a little bit more cleanup work. So this is one of the housings, the bearing housings for one of the bearings here. Like this is, yeah, this is a different one. This is for the edger blade. This one's for the main blade. So those are cleaned up pretty nice. I've got new bearings for them. This is the one that's kind of shop-made one for that yoke that raises and lowers the edger blade, the adjustable edger blade. This is a sleeve that goes over the main shaft between the saw blade and the end of the main shaft, or depending on whether you have the big edger blade on or just a standard edger blade. It depends on where this goes. But it sandblasted. See, there was a lot of pits and stuff in it. But it's not in bad shape. It cleaned up and it'd be ready to be painted. But I'm going to put it on the lathe. Well, it's banged up a little bit around the edges here, so I'm going to just turn those just a little bit. And I don't want to face this off because I don't want to change the geometry on it. I don't want to change the length of this any at all, but I do want to take off these rough edges and stuff here where it's been banged up and clean that up. And kind of the same, this is the sleeve here that's got a rough edge on it here, and this is the one that had a pin out of it that indexes on that main blade, that drives that main blade, and that's been broken off. And I see what they did, they drilled that all the way through and welded it up on this end. So I have to do a repair on that before I do anything else, and probably clean this up a little bit too. It's got some burrs on it and stuff from being beat up. This is the other one on the other side. It's the same way. So again, I'm not going to face these off to clean that up, except to clean up like where this has been beat over and peened over there, and straighten out those edges. This is the sleeve that goes in the big pulley on the edger blade shaft that drives edger blades. This is the sleeve that locks that big pulley on the shaft. I did sandblast it inside, and I was careful not to sandblast outside here. But again, I'm going to do the same thing on this. I'm going to put it on the lathe and polish this up here, this face here. It's good inside here now, pretty much. But I'm going to polish this inside, or this outside up here where it goes down in to lock that pulley in place. The glass on my sandblasting cabinet's getting frosted up pretty good, so I need to get a new glass for that and repair that so I can see these a little bit better to finish them up. Now this is a pretty well thought out, well designed, complex piece of machinery, but there's some things on it that just are not made for repairing. They're making it easy repairs. Now this is that foot that goes down. It's a trip lever that trips it out of reverse. This goes up against that lower blade guard and kicks it down or lets it go down, and this is what stops it from the carriage from moving when it gets back to the back of the track. And this is not made to be repaired or to be painted. See, it's got this welded on up here, and you can't get this piece off. I guess you could paint it, but you're still not going to get paint down around wherever this thing happens to be. So this is the catch for the forward reverse lever, and this is riveted on to this piece. Makes a nice and secure joint there, but you can't repair it. You can't. I've sandblasted it, but there's still dirt and crap down in behind that. There's another piece that's like that too. Anyway, there's a couple pieces like that where the parts are riveted on instead of bolted or screwed on, and so it makes it impossible to work on it, to fix them, or to paint them, to clean them up. Well, this is one of the pieces here. See, this had a rivet on it. It was riveted on. Anyway, I had to grind that off to get it out of there, and so I'll have to figure out some way of fixing that. Maybe weld a nut here onto that and put a number 10 or number 12 screw in there, round-headed screw, something like that, because you don't want it sticking out very far, otherwise it'd interfere with the movement, free movement of the lever. So it's got to be, it's like this one here. You can't have a bolt head sticking out of there. Well, this is the other thing that's a headache. This is the lumber gauges. These attach to the bottom of the track, and then you adjust these up. These go up against the cut face of the log and set the depth of the cut for the next cut. And these things were, well, one of them was working okay. This is not the one. This one was froze up and bent up. Oh, I got the flag out of there, the end of it here, the stop, and the shaft on that is bent up. So I have to heat that up to straighten that out. I guess it doesn't really matter too much whether it's straight or not, but anyway, I just took that out of there. And now this is where that thing's supposed to slide back and forth, but this thing won't come out of there to be cleaned up because it's got this tang welded on down here that the chain hooks onto, that adjusts this back and forth. And then this is supposed to pivot freely on there, and of course that was rusted up and there's no way to get it off. Again, it's welded on here, so I'm going to have to cut the welds off on that to take that apart, but I'm going to have to figure out some way. I don't really want to bend this channel here out, because then I have to bend it back in, so I'm not sure exactly what to do on that. I guess I have to try to cut the welds on that too. I don't know, but that's got to come apart so that I can get it working freely, and then make sure and get it powder coated in all the surfaces. Because down in there in these grooves in this channel is a real sore spot for crap building up in there and getting rusty and stuff. Then there's some parts and pieces on here that I got to looking at. Some of them are worn a little bit, like this. I'll need to weld up these holes a little bit where they're worn. But then there's some stuff on here that the fit and finish is not very good on it. It's pretty raw when it was put together. I'll do some cleanup work with a file and stuff on that. So anyway, there's still some work to do on this. Some of this stuff is ready to get painted up, powder coated, cleaned up, powder coated, and painted up and put away. And some of it needs some more work on and some more sandblasting on. Well, the other thing I've been doing is going through the hardware here and cataloging what kind of hardware we've got. I'm going to wind up replacing most of those nuts and bolts and stuff on here with new stuff. So I need to figure out what I've got there, what needs to be replaced. Well, it all is going to be replaced. I'm going to replace everything. Some of them still look like they're pretty good. Some of them are kind of customized, like this bolt here has been machined down here to where it's just a little bit of the head left on it. And that one I might just clean up and reuse it. Same with these. These are made up with concentric on here for adjusting the rollers, and those are not bad. I can wire brush those and clean those up and reuse them. These pins can be polished up on the lathe. This bolt here, probably clean these two up. There's two of those. Probably clean some of those up like that and reuse them. But most of this hardware I'll go ahead and replace. Once the CAD plating gets off of these, once they start rusting, they're not much good anymore. They'll just keep rusting. So it's just money ahead to replace them now rather than trying to clean up a mess with them, leaving them in there.